The goal of our webinar today is to support educators that are working with high school students and adult learners. The majority of our users teach elementary school. However, we serve K-12, and this webinar was developed to give educators in high school and beyond more information on how to find and use the resources that we have to offer. So some of you may be teaching high school students or adult learners who are reading below grade level. ReadWorks offers a number of differentiation tools to support your work. If you have students that are on or above grade level and not sure what resources we have to offer, this is also the right place for you. And I will make sure to highlight ways that you can search for resources by grade level to really meet the needs of your students. So let's start with if you teach high school. And you'll notice that I'll be looking away from my camera while I do this, and that's only because I'm looking at my second screen. So if you teach high school, once you create your free ReadWorks account, the first place that you should head over would be our content page. On the content page, you'll see on the left side, we have various filter options. This is going to help you find exactly what you need. So I'm going to scroll down to the grade level filters, and let's say you teach high school. So let's select those grade levels in the filter. And this is going to generate a list of passages that are on 9th to 12th grade level. Depending on your content needs, you can then filter based on what it is that you're looking for. So at the top, we see reading passages. When you select that, you're going to get a list of single passages that include text-dependent question sets. Below that, we also see article a day sets. This is a K-8 product, so you're not going to see any results when you select 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. However, if you are teaching high school and you are teaching students who are reading below grade level, this is still a helpful resource, and I'll tell you a little bit about it later on in this webinar. You'll also find paired texts. We have brand new Spanish-English paired texts. These are only available for grades 2 to 5. So you see if I click that, you won't see any results because they're only available for 2 to 5 for now. But we do have paired texts where both passages are written in English, and they come with one shared question set. I'm going to just show you an example of a paired text. This includes the 2 passages. So we have inaugural addresses from 2 presidents. There's a vocabulary activity and a question set. I want to highlight in the question set, you're going to see that the first few questions would be about the first passage, then the next set of questions would be about the second. But when you get towards the end of the question set, students are going to have to compare and contrast both passages. So if you're looking to have students practice reading multiple texts and comparing them, or pulling examples and citing examples and evidence from 2 passages, this would be a great resource for you. Something else that I'd like to highlight is that anytime you see a passage with a blue bolded word, you're going to click on that and you can see our vocabulary widget. This is an automatic feature that comes up with our passages. Students can click on the speaker to listen to the correct pronunciation. They can also get translations in Spanish and Mandarin. They get a definition, and they get an example of a sentence with that vocabulary word. Usually when the vocabulary word is a noun, there's typically an image that comes up with it. That happens most of the time, not every single time. Going back to the filter, you can also select book studies. So we've developed book studies with teachers in mind. So many teachers are already using ReadWorks to supplement the work that they're already doing in the classroom. We decided for those commonly taught books in ELA, we're going to create these text sets where instead of having to search for specific things. We're going to put together these text sets that can accompany your lessons on these books. So we see some examples here. We have theme book studies, deeper dive book studies. For some other grades, there's knowledge-based book studies, but the purpose is to really enrich the classroom discussions that you're already having. You can even give students an opportunity to build that background knowledge with these. If there's certain themes that you want to expose them to really prepare them for the discussions in class, highly recommend using book studies. Okay. So now that I've shown you how to kind of navigate around the filters, I also want to show you ways that you can assign passages. So I'm going to go back to reading passages. And like I said before, when you select a reading passage, it automatically comes with a question set. And again, you see those vocabulary words bolded in blue. Now, some people prefer to print. And when you click on the print option here, a small window comes up where you can pick and choose which additional features you'd like. So if you want to include vocabulary activities in the printed version, you can check that off. You can include answer lines for students. And by clicking on print, you're going to generate a printable PDF. And so because we selected the vocabulary, now students get a copy of those vocabulary words. They can complete the vocabulary activity, and then they have the question sets. If you're using the digital classroom, you can click on Assign. Selecting audio is a really great way to support below grade level readers, ELL students, and then you can have the vocabulary and comp questions included. If you have multiple classes, select the class, and you can go ahead and assign. So I've walked you through how to use the filter options to find high school level texts, and I've shown you some examples of the type of text we have. Moving into a little bit more specific, what if you teach high school but your students are reading below grade level? Or what if you teach adults and they are building their reading skills? So I'm going to go back again. And this time I'm going to adjust the filter options. I selected high school grade levels, but I'm going to just update that. Actually, I'll just clear all filters just to show you what that looks like. Okay. A really great feature of the reading passages that you might be interested in doing, I've used this as an educator as well, is I would ahead of time, like at the beginning of the year, before we start officially assessing reading, I would go to the reading passages and I would select various grade levels and I would print out reading passages through various reading levels and grade levels. And I would pull students to sort of informally assess them. This is something you can also do. Or if you want to get just a little bit of an understanding of where those students could be, that's something you can do. And you can play around with the grade levels, depending on that. Underneath the reading passages, I also want to bring your attention to the step reads option. So step reads are a really great way to differentiate. I'm going to click on this 4th grade passage here, and it comes with a step read. So this passage is written on a 4th grade level. The step read is written on a level that's easier for students who are reading below grade level to read. So the topics are still the same, right? The topic is still going to be the same, but the way that the texts are written differs. But the key parts of the passage, things that students would need to be able to contribute meaningfully in your classroom discussions, are still going to be present in both. This is a really great way to differentiate. So if you have students reading below grade level and you want to give them an entry point into the lessons you're doing, I would highly recommend using those step reads. They also include the vocabulary activities that we talked about, and you can include question sets. And the same goes for assigning. When you click on assign, just make sure you're checking off that you want to include that step read. You can select audio to support them, and you are able to do that. Okay. I mentioned article a day before. This is a K-8 product. So let's say you are teaching 9th grade and you have some students that are reading below grade level. You can filter by grade level. You can even access article a day by clicking on the scope and sequence. So I'm going to just select 6th grade here. And I'll scroll down to October. And we are in the 3rd week. You can either print the article a day set, and you can include boost articles and challenge articles. So a boost article, or here with the Apple icon, you're going to see these when the text is written at a grade level below. So we selected 6th grade, but the boost article is written on a 5th grade level. And the challenge articles with the lightning bolts, those are written at a grade level above. So that would be 7th grade level. So that's another way that you can differentiate and support those below grade level readers. And I'm going to even go back a little further, because for K-2, we have nonfiction decodables on our website, and those are aligned to the article a day product. So if I select 2nd grade, I'll just show you how that looks different. Now you'll see a message here that says includes decodables. So still includes the boost article and the challenge article, but you see an extra tab here with decodable texts. Our decodables are written at least, and they're written at least 90% decodable. They are topically connected to the article a day set that they are attached to. So this set is about space, and students would start out either reading or listening to the article. Then later on in the week, you can slowly introduce the decodable. Have them be exposed to the topic a few times, and then they can go ahead, read the decodable. So this is about harvest moons, and this other text is about Dr. Mae Jemison. You can print. Again, you can include those boost and challenge articles. You can include those decodables. It's also available in the digital classroom, and I'll show you what that looks like. But when you do that, you can generate another printable PDF. And I'm going to just scroll down so you can see that the decodables are also attached at the end. You can assign and make sure that you include all of these helpful features like audio, boost and challenge articles, decodables. And another great feature here is student choice. So we know that student choice is a great way to promote engagement. You could also have students read the same articles depending on how you're planning your lessons. Maybe you want every single day to start out with the same passage for students. You want to read it out loud, or just to have certain class discussions. But for our demo, I'll just select students can choose any article in the set. And I'm going to go ahead and assign that to my demo class. Let's say I have adults who are building those early literacy skills. This would be a great way to support them. I'm going to assign that. Okay. Going back to the content page and the filter options, I mentioned before that we have paired text, and our Spanish-English texts are available for grades 2 to 5. Depending on what you are seeing in your classrooms, you may have students who need that level of support. So I just want to point out that this is another great resource to build background knowledge. In the Spanish-English paired texts, you will see that there is one text written in Spanish and one text written in English. And there is a question set that is connected to the English passage. Something else that I'd like to point out, the audio in the Spanish text is also in Spanish. And these vocabulary words that are bolded now, we're working on updating this so that students can also click on the Spanish vocabulary words and have access to those vocabulary widgets like they would in the English passage. So that's an update that we're really looking forward to. All right. So I've already kind of walked you through finding reading passages with step reads, article a day, paired texts, decodables with article a day. And now I just want to show you what it looks like from the student perspective, because we've already started assigning some things. So what does it look like for your students if you're using the digital classroom? All right. So I'm going to start with the article a day set because that includes the decodables. So we selected the option where students can read any article in the set. So that's why you're seeing all of these at once. When they go to a specific article, because we've included audio, they can listen to it and follow along. We have certain accessibility features at the top of the screen, so they can expand for a distraction-free view. They can increase the text size, medium, large, extra large. You can include paragraph numbers. You can use a guided reading strip to help your students keep track. We also have the split screen option. So when students are completing their book of knowledge entry, where they're capturing the most important details that they've learned from the article, they can go ahead and refer back to the passage as they compose their sentences. And if you've included the option for decodables, again, that's for K-2, then students are going to be able to click on the decodable. You'll notice that there is no audio option here because the goal is they're reading the decodable completely independently. And they can click on I'm done reading once they've finished. Here we have a passage with a question set and a vocabulary activity. So because we've included the vocabulary activity, the first thing that they're going to see is an opportunity to reflect on those key vocabulary words, whether they don't know it, they've heard of it and they're not sure, they know a little bit about it, or if they know it well, they can choose. And then they read the passage. Because we've included audio, they're able to listen. They can even adjust the speed of the audio, or they can pin the audio to the top. Hey, hold on. There we go. So when the audio is pinned, they can scroll and, while they listen. Then there's another vocabulary activity. So they're getting another opportunity to interact with those key vocabulary words from the passage that are bolded in blue. And the question sets. They can use the split screen option to go back to the text to answer those comprehension questions. All right. So I've talked to you about various resources to use, especially by grade level. And now we're going to learn more from Dinise. Dinise is an adult education teacher who uses ReadWorks with her 3 classes. Some of you may be teaching a room full of adults with a wide range of reading levels. As Dinise shares how she supports each group of her students, I want you to think about the level of differentiation that can be applied in your own classroom. So for example, if you have computers, you can try out these strategies that Dinise is going to share with you as you meet the needs of all your adult learners.
Hello, everyone. I am fortunate enough to be able to have 3 classes, and I realize many adult educators have most of their students all in one. But we have been able to divide our students into 3 classes. The first one is called Foundations, where the students come in with very basic emergent reading skills. And their goal is to improve their literacy skills. So we start out with doing decodables, as we looked at earlier. And the activities that I like to do with that is I give them a set of words, and then they find those in the decodable writing. They cut out the sentences, they put them back in order to build sequencing skills, and again, reinforcing what reading is. Where does the sentence begin? Where does the sentence end? How do you use words, put words together to make it flow? We also do article a day at different levels. I don't always stick with the K2 level because I want them to experience different vocabulary, but they listen to the articles, we track them together. I put them up on the whiteboard. I also print them off every week, and they take them home and practice them. And we have a lot of activities with those that they enjoy. And there's no question set, so it's not as stressful for them. Like it says here, it's a low risk activity. The passages and question set, the students do these independently, and then hopefully they have a computer that they listen, they use the audio. If they don't, we do read them in class together, and then from there they keep building their word bank that they're using. And then paired with that, I do a lot of videos to supplement what they were doing in an article of a day or their passages. We use videos to pair with that and to expand that knowledge that they need.
Okay.
My second class is called Connections. And I call it Connections because they're connecting how they read and what they're reading, not just words, but to what does that mean? So again, they're not learning to read as much as reading to learn, and they're using all those strategies in a text to get main idea, to understand how a passage works, how a paragraph works. And we start out in Connections with passages. That's how I start. So every week, all of my students are given a passage. They're given assignments, and it's their homework. And there's 3 passages, and it's everyone gets the same passage, and they all answer the questions. But the key to this is they get a printed copy too, and they have to go and prove where they got their answers from. If it's an inference, where did they kind of get that answer from? So they go in and they actually go back onto the paper and write out, they number the questions, taking them back to look for evidence. Article a day, which is the next thing, I print them all off, or they get to choose. They do 3 each week. So there's 6 in an article of a day. They do 3 one week and 3 the next. And they get to choose those 3. And the most important part about article a day is it follows the passage topic. So for studying about history and it's voting, I try to find articles about government. So everything flows together to reinforce the vocabulary that's being used.
So I do want to take a moment because you mentioned the homework over the course of a week. So I'm going to add those details on the screen as well.
Thank you. I moved a little faster there, didn't I? So every class does it. So this is a way to document. A lot of the students may not have access to a computer, or they may not be able to do it at home what needs to be done on a computer. So they have the option to do either way. I print it all off and they can take it home. But every week they do 3 passages in the question set. They do the vocabulary we have different vocabularies activities. They circle words. They use the context clue. We take note of any word they don't know. They circle it or keep a word chart. They also, for their homework, do library. They do 3 in their library for fun. And if they don't have a computer, then they ask me to print them out for them. I help them do that.
Is that based on their interest?
The library is always based on their interest to encourage leisure reading. And also some of the adults want to read to their children at home. And so sometimes they want to pick out articles, passages that they think their children would like. And I encourage that. I encourage them to use the library to share with their children. And then that way they're reading, improving their fluency, they're sharing and building vocabulary with their children, and also making themselves feel good, to show their children that they do. I find that to be a very powerful motivator to get them to
Right.
do this homework.
Awesome. All right. And then there's your third group.
The third group are for those students who are preparing for the GED or the high set for that high school equivalency. And this is the group that they know how to read, they know how to find main idea, they know about text structure. Lack or what they need assistance in is vocabulary building and specific skill sets. So let's say they need help with comparing and contrasting, which Tamika pointed out those paired text earlier, which is a very powerful tool in ReadWorks to help these students realize how to compare something and then how to write it up. We also, the main idea is so important, and they get this in their homework. All of the students get the same homework as the other classes, but their emphasis is the strategy, whatever they need individually. If they need to improve their reading stamina, then I do passages that are a little longer each time. If they need to build background knowledge, say they're getting ready to take the history high set, then that background knowledge, that vocabulary building, the concepts, article a day, and the passages go together to study the history. And this is all supplemental. ReadWorks is used to supplement the high set books or whatever books you're using in class to prepare them. But I have found with great results that ReadWorks has helped these students feel more comfortable with the material that they have seen on the high set. That's what they've said to me when they've come back. I remember that article, or I remember that passage. We did that. I knew that word. Again, that you can include at any grade level. And often I'll start even at a second or third grade level, even with my high set group, on whatever topic it is, and go all the way through, and they build little notebooks with those passages.
I also want to take a moment to check in with our audience. So if you are an adult educator, we'd like to know a little bit more about what high school equivalency exam you would take in your state. So Dinise is discussing the high set, and I know that the GED is also commonly used, but if you're in a state that uses something else, please let us know in the chat what is the name of that equivalency exam for your adult students. Okay, so in Virginia, standards of learning. Okay, thank you so much, Kathy. Oh, for K to 12, okay. And I do also want to let you know that next Tuesday, there will be a live webinar on using question sets for test prep. So for folks who are teaching testing grades like third grade and above, I would also highly recommend signing up for the webinar next week. Thank you, Amy. She says it's the GED or NEDP in Connecticut. ESOL adults not preparing for exams. Okay. ASVAB for high school. Thank you so much for letting us know. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Dinise, when talking about your group of students that are preparing to take the high set?
I want to be, yes, the search bar. So if I have a student who needs more work on just main idea, just being able to use that search bar, that topics of interest to that student that pertains just to that student, to get them to read on their interests. But the main emphasis at that would be main idea. And just so the search by topic is another great resource that we have.
Okay, and I'm going to share on my screen too, just to point that out. Let me log back into my teacher account. So when you go to that content page, everyone, the search bar right here, you can look up topics in this search bar. And whatever topic is being covered in those exams, you can adjust based on grade levels here to find topics that are connected to the exam. So you are able to prepare your students to take that high school equivalency exam with our resources. Okay. And something else that I also thought was interesting was that you include all grade levels when it comes to this group. So if it's a topic that interests them and it may be on a higher grade level than where they're testing, that's not a limitation, right? Like you can either find videos to help supplement or just support them. But if it's a topic that they're interested in or a topic that's relevant to the test, it doesn't matter if the grade level is higher.
No, because they can use the auditory, they can listen to it, and we can discuss it. And if they don't have the ability to listen to it, then if they really are interested, we read it in class, and I read it with them, to them, or they pair up, and one student might read this, another, and then they talk about it. So yeah, we use all levels in the high set in the third class, pretty much on a topic, as much as they want, or as much time as we can do it.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to just kind of summarize everything that we've talked about. And I also want to remind you that you can access a copy of the slides in our presentation by clicking on the green resources button on the bottom. So Dinise has given us a lot of great ways to use resources across levels. You have access to those slides if you want to take a look and use that to inform your planning. So if you're looking to build background knowledge with your students, we have Article a Day, book studies, and Spanish-English paired texts. In the parentheses, there are grade levels listed. That's not to say you are limited to those grade levels. You have to choose, what's going to make the most sense for what you're seeing in your classrooms, right? If you are in a high school classroom and you've got some readers that are on a 7th, 8th grade level, why not try Article a Day? Give them an opportunity to build that background knowledge. You can do it in your small group. So there's plenty of ways to differentiate. We also recommend promoting comprehension monitoring with our passages and text-dependent question sets, or our paired texts and question sets. Those paired texts are going to give you an opportunity to have students compare and contrast. When you choose just the reading passages, that's going to be one passage with a question set. And then finally, you can have your students practice decoding skills with the decodables. Those are for readers on a K-2 level. And we include them with the Article a Day product. So if you're building the background knowledge in Article a Day, give your students an opportunity to apply what they're learning by reading the decodables independently. All right, we are a little bit ahead of schedule, and because of that, I'm going to highlight another ReadWorks resource, Dinise. We have the Reading Mindset Snapshot. It's an opportunity for you to get to know your students as readers and watch them grow. The Reading Mindset Snapshot is a survey-style inventory that's designed to track and quantify reading growth that matters but is rarely measured. So student joy and the topics that they're interested in, right? Dinise mentioned earlier that she also promotes reading for leisure, right? So part of that is you have to know what your students are interested in. What topics do they want to learn more about and read about? So the Reading Mindset Snapshot gives you an opportunity to collect that information. Knowing this information gives teachers the tools to help students read and comprehend challenging texts, choose texts for independent reading, and enjoy reading more by tapping into their interests. I'm going to just show you how you can locate the reading mindset snapshot. We have a tab right here, and you can click on the schedule your reading mindset snapshot today to get started. Here's some screenshots for what it looks like for your students to answer questions in the reading mindset snapshot. So if you're looking for a great way to just learn more about your students as readers, I would highly recommend giving that a shot. And now we are near the end of our session. Celestina has been supporting us with answering questions throughout, and we're going to just see if there's any other questions that have come up. Oh, okay. This question is from Mary. I would like to see high-low texts for K-2. Many seemed geared to children rather than adult ed. This is so interesting because Dinise and I were having a whole discussion about this earlier today. So I guess I would specifically call out the decodables. Those are written for K-2 grade levels. And as someone who has worked closely with the development of decodables, I can certainly say with the image choices that we've made and the way that the texts are written, the majority of the decodable texts have photographs instead of like an animated image. And the majority of these texts are also written in a way that do not assume that the reader is a young child. And that is a very intentional choice that we've made because we want to be inclusive of other grade levels that would possibly be reading the decodables. And we've gotten some feedback around that from educators in upper elementary, in middle school, in high school, and beyond, and saying that it was a little bit easier to have their students read our decodables because at first glance, you're not seeing a cartoon image and the language doesn't assume that it's a young child reading it. Dinise, do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yes, especially in the social studies, the history, and the science, I find that the texts adults do find them interesting, and they don't find them difficult in the sense that that the pictures are in a not that it's more of a photograph, like you said. Now I agree that maybe some of the fiction might not be there, but even some of the fiction stories my adults have really enjoyed too. I pre-read it all before they do it, but my students so far have read all the way down to first grade.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your question, Mary. My email address is on the screen. So if there are additional questions that come up for you after today's webinar, please reach out to Mika@readworks.org. Please be on the lookout for a follow-up email that's going to have your PD certificate, a copy of today's webinar, a copy of the recording of today's webinar, as well as the resources that we've used and mentioned throughout the session. So when you click on that green button below, you'll see a copy of our slides. I'll also include a link to that page in the follow-up email. Sometimes emails from Crowdcast can get sent to spam. So if you don't see that message by tomorrow morning, please check your spam folder. I typically follow up with the email 10 minutes after we close out. All right, I have some additional announcements. So ReadWorks has recently partnered with Story Shares to host our fall writing contest for middle school. It is a $2,000 prize, $2,000. And students get the opportunity to write an alternate ending to the ReadWorks cliffhanger fiction series, Hacked. So for any middle school educators that are in the audience right now, I'm going to put that link in the chat for you. Tell your students to get writing and to enter that contest. Additionally, we have a social media contest that's that's happening now in the month of October. And you have a chance to win gift cards up to $50. All you have to do is head over to the ReadWorks Instagram account, and we are looking for veteran teachers to share their best teaching advice as a comment on our Instagram post in order to reach teachers who are in their first 5 years of teaching. Fun fact about ReadWorks: the majority of our users have been teaching for at least 10 years. So I know there is somebody in this audience that has some wisdom to share. Please head over to the ReadWorks account on Instagram, share your wisdom. We are so thankful for you. All right, we don't have any additional questions. My email is on the screen if you do have any questions. Dinise, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invite. Adult education really appreciates ReadWorks.
And we appreciate you. All right, take care, everyone. Goodbye.